This is L.A. Gore on behalf of Horror Central, and we are on the phone with Charles, co-writer of Dark House, and the legendary horror icon Tobin Bell. They're promoting their new fantastic film, Dark House, and I just watched the film, and I have to say, you have a hell of a movie on your hands. Directed by Victor Salva and starring Tobin Bell, it's a who's who of the modern horror industry. Charles, you have to let us know, how does it feel to have your script fall into such good hands?
Oh, well, I'll tell you this. I certainly, it's very gratifying to have a person like Tobin Bell as a performer with his iconic roles in the past, and also to be directed by Victor Salva, who has placed his stamp on horror to be at the helm. And for that matter, Don Follower is shooting the film because he is spectacular at what he does.
That's awesome. I know it had to have been exciting. And Tobin, what was going through your mind while reading the script? What were your initial thoughts on this huge story?
Well, I could tell he was a powerful guy, and whenever I'm reading a script, I'm always looking for an underlying richness. And I thought that Seth was a character that had lots of visual potential, and whenever, I've played a number of antagonists in films, and when you have to be a strong force that keeps the protagonists from getting what they're after, that's always a fun task, and Dark House was no different. And it was, in some ways, better than many films because we were in the marvelous, eerie woods of the Deep South.
Well, I couldn't agree more with you there, and as far as the freshness of the character goes, this movie is certainly chock full of them. So, Charles, I'm a bit of a mythology buff myself, and as soon as I heard the names Lilith and Eve, I knew I was going to be in for a treat, and then you threw in Samael, and we have the foundation for a true modern horror epic. Can you tell us a little bit about your influences and what inspired you to use this particular myth for your script?
Well, the funny thing is that my influences were from the Twilight Zone series and Stephen King in the past. I've always been interested of the idea of fate, and everybody is always talking about, I hope my fate is better. My fate is going to, give me this achievement, or bring me this, or bring me that. I kind of took it in a different direction. I wanted to take fate and say, what if you're a very good person, but your fate was to be bad? And that's sort of where the genesis of this idea came from. I'm such a horror buff that I actually went to the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, and I conjured up the Stephen King's vibes for writing The Shining. I actually stayed in the same room, and that's where I developed the story for this story of a young man with these abilities and seeing visions of a home that he didn't know existed in the real world, and finding out that this house actually existed. And finding that house becomes the most important thing to him, and there's a dark presence not permitting him to get there. And when he finds out why he is the way he is, you realize that he is just a pawn in a much bigger story of the everlasting battle between good versus evil. And in terms of the characters and so forth that we used, there's nothing that's lasted longer than the whole biblical battle of good versus evil, and the story and the plot lines, they just seamlessly work together, and it just created a spectacular story.
Yes, it absolutely did, and even if some people aren't familiar with some of the major mythological characters that you use, there's tons of stuff that kind of goes, maybe you wouldn't suspect it. Like, there's tons of iconography, and just there's all sorts of stuff in this film that makes I watched the film last night, and I've only seen it once, but I would imagine this is the kind of film that the more you watch it, the more you pick up on.
Well, I had I had several goals, but my goal was to make this a character-driven story. But also, the story, I wanted it to be a Swiss watch. And so although we take you on twists and turns, at the end, it all comes together. And because there's so many twists and turns, I think that a lot of people will try to watch the film a few times to see if any part of the storyline did not match at the end. And I'm sure you will find that it works perfectly, as we say, like a Swiss watch.
Very cool, very cool. Okay, so Tobin, not to give any spoilers away about Dark House, but you have an impressive filmography to your name, though you're most known these days as Jigsaw, of course, but Seth is a very different character. Was it fun for you as an actor to bring Seth to life, to portray such a vastly different person than what you are most known for these days?
It was mandatory. That's what we do. We try to inhabit the skins of other humans, and when I embarked on this journey to Mississippi and to playing Seth, I worked with a hair and makeup person. Her name was Leslie Bouchard, and she was enormously helpful in terms of creating the look that we were after. I knew I wanted him to be dark.
Right.
And in more ways than one. But physically dark. And he's been laboring in that house for many years. And I always start with, what do I do for a living? And he's a workman, and he should look like a workman, and you should believe he's a workman. And so it's always fun. It's fun going, like if you play a cowboy, or you play a lawyer, or you play the mayor of the city. And a lot of the fun is creating the look.
Well, you certainly had a very unique look in this one. I was starting to wonder if you had actually grown your hair out. But so this one's just for fun. Tobin, do you think Seth would survive one of Jigsaw's traps?
Well, he's certainly a very determined guy. And Seth has some inner strength and abilities that might help him. He's a very powerful guy, and part of surviving those traps is persistence. And like John Kramer always says, how much blood would you shed to stay alive? Well, Seth is not backing off to anybody.
Yeah, Seth looks like he's willing to shed a lot of blood to stay alive.
Yeah, no question.
Charles, do you have any tips that you can give to the independent horror filmmakers out there? Maybe someone who's sitting on a script and is just kind of given up on it. Is there anything that you would like to say personally to them? Because you have a very good story on your hands here.
Well, you go ahead, Charles. You go first. Oh, I was going to say, first of all, persistence, certainly persistence. It's a long journey, and to develop your craft and so forth. So, don't kid yourself. Train, be a student to the industry, and I would also say, don't be deterred by others who are going to say that the work is not where it needs to be, and constantly be evaluating and reevaluating and developing your project. And if that waiting time that Charles is talking about, do a rewrite. Very often people overwrite things, and you want to keep tightening it up, see what it needs. If you have time on your hands, use it wisely and use it well, and then the script will be more ready the next person who reads it. Exactly. And you got to write might be something that's close to you that just doesn't fit. You got to keep the audience in mind at all times.
Very cool, very cool. Oh, well, this one is for both of you. If you can describe Dark House in just a few of your own words, what would it be?
Oh man, in a few of
Yeah, just
words?
kind of like if you could kind of sum up the film, just a few of your own words about it. Well, how would you describe it?
I'd call it a very timely story about the struggle between good and evil. It has a lot of marvelous twists and turns.
Awesome. And Charles?
Yeah, I was gonna say twists and turns. I'd say hold on to the rails because this roller coaster's coming quick.
Awesome. Well, I have to congratulate the both of you. In a world of theatrical, forgettable genre films, Dark House truly stands out as unique, individual, and different while still having tangible evidence of the influence of the great films of the past. I'm sure it'll gain quickly cult status, if not be remembered as one of the best films of 2014. And before we go, Tobin, I know you have to be tired of hearing this, but just for Horror Central, can you ask us if we'd like to play a game?
You ready, Logan?
I'm ready.
You want to play a game?
Very cool. Gave me goosebumps. Well, congratulations. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to seeing what the fans of Horror Central have to say about Dark House. Thank you so much.
How are we supposed to find a house without a street address?
The directions in the will had the house in town on this road.
You got some kind of deed? You're about 23 years too late.
Town doesn't exist anymore. Washed away. Same as your house.
Unless you like old wives' tales.
It's a long shot, but we mapped something a few days ago that I think you need to see. I think a lot of big stuff must have washed through here. I think that's the tree that finally stopped it.
You want to see this house you think is yours? Come on.
Look, I've been drawing this house since I could pick up a crayon.
What is it that you think that's here that's gonna solve any puzzles for you?
Up until about an hour ago, I didn't know this house existed.
You ever see a hanging tree, boy?
You really see things when you touch some people. Bad things. Do you remember touching the baby?
What happened under that tree?
You tell your friend to run as fast and as far away from this house and all the horrors that came with it.
The things with the axes, who are they?
The, opposition.
Sorry about that.